Sound good. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We are live. It's 1:10. So as I told you, we would be live at 1:10. We are live here. Still, I'm finding so many. Okay, only few, 5. Okay, guys. Yesterday I told the features of democracy. We discussed two features of democracy, the definition of democracy. Let me just recall what I told you. Yesterday, I told you about the definition of democracy and the origin of democracy. The democracy, the word democracy gets originated from the Greek word demokratia. Demos is people and kratia is rule or power. So democracy in the whole is people's power or people's rule. Right now, what is the exact definition of democracy? Democracy is the government chosen by the people, or the government where the representatives are elected by the people. Elected would be the good one. Elected. Why elected? Because it's not an hereditary situation where the king would be nominating his own son for the next king, right? No, we have the right to vote. We go and we vote for that person. Now, which are the two features that we saw? The first one, in a democratic country, major decisions are made by the representatives or the leaders, which are obviously chosen by us. The second one that we saw, uh, where I gave you example of China and Mexico, was the free and fair electoral competition. Now I'll just recall what I told you in the first one. That is, the decisions are taken by the leaders, which are chosen by the people, elected by the people. Yeah, elected would be the good word. Example that I gave you was the Pakistan, right? Pervez Musharraf, who was a military leader. He issued a referendum. He overthrew the present prime minister. He declared himself as the president. Yeah, that is not the way to do. Even though the people got elected, still he had the power to take decisions. In a democratic country, if you are not elected, you should not make any decisions. That's the first one. The second one is free and fair election. In China, I told you the Communist Party holds everybody responsible for the election. They choose their candidates. They choose their president. There is no opposition. Even though the elections are conducted, China cannot be called a democratic country. I gave you an example of the elections happened in India last year. India is the largest democratic country. The next example was Mexico, right? There is a party in Mexico. The party uses all kinds of dirty tricks to win the elections. So if now in China, look at in China, there is no opposition party, so Communist Party. In Mexico, there is opposition party, but the ruling party does so many dirty tricks. The opposition party will never be able to win an election. So neither it's free nor it's fair. So the elections are not free, not fair in Mexico and China. So these two we discussed yesterday. Remember, I'm telling you again, in a democratic country, decisions must be taken by the leaders, and the competition, the electoral competition, must be free and fair. Now, wherever there is a non-democratic country, decisions are taken by one person who is not chosen by the rulers or the people. The second one, there wouldn't be any free and fair electoral competition. Fine, guys. I hope those two features were very easy and those two features were clear. Now, if it is clear, I would require a thumbs up. Are you clear till now? Or yes, sir, would do. We have 12 who have turned out today. Yes, okay. Okay, I hope it is. I am going in a very slow pace so that you can understand. The only problem with this is the sound with the video blur. If your connection is clear, I think there shouldn't be any worries. I'll try to make an entire video of this chapter and put it in the group later. For the time being, we will be having the YouTube live classes. Yes. Okay. Now let's proceed to today's. There are two more features that we are going to learn today. It's a very easy one. Now we will start with those two features. Now the third feature that is very much practiced in the democratic countries is one person, one vote, one value. One person, one vote, one value. Now, what is one person, one vote, and one value? You know, all of us have one vote, right? If you are above the age of 18, you will be given one vote. You can go and vote for anybody. That's your choice to vote. But in Saudi Arabia, women do not have the right to vote. Did you know in Saudi Arabia, they do not have the right to vote? Isn't it very strange in a modern times where women do not have the right to vote? In France, French Revolution, you studied, the women were not given the right to vote, right? The French, nearly after like 100 years, the women got the right to vote. So when we claim equality and all this stuff, when the right voting rights is not given to the women, it is not equality in the true sense. Second one, there is a country called Estonia where the citizenship rules are in such a way that the Russian minority doesn't get a right to vote or finds it very difficult to get a right to vote. In Estonia, the Russian minority. The third one in Fiji, in a country called Fiji, the electoral system is such that the vote of an indigenous Fiji, indigenous means the person's natives of Fiji, their value is much higher than an Indian Fiji or an immigrant from some other country. Is it like that in our country, guys? Where even if you are from some other country, you are in India, you have been the citizen of India, your vote value will be one, my vote value will be one, right? Because we are all equal before law. But in Fiji, it's not like that. In Fiji, the indigenous Fiji's voting value is more compared to the other people. It's very much not good, right? I will move ahead. Democracy is based on the fundamental principle of political equality. That gives us the third feature, that is, in a democracy, each adult citizen must have one vote. Each vote must have one value. We will learn about this in chapter 4. There is a beautiful cartoon made in your book. Now you see that at last, one man, one vote. This is referring to the Iraqi elections held after Saddam Hussein's regime, where Saddam Hussein was a dictator. When he was a dictator, all the decisions were taken. Yeah, he was a dictator. He was taking the decisions later because of the war with personal issues with the United States. The United States government sent the army to capture Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was finally jailed and he was killed. Look at the picture. He's in jail and seeing, and the people are happy. They're saying, finally, Saddam Hussein is no more. Finally, we are having one vote, one value. That's what it should be. The fourth one. Now we'll move on to the fourth important feature, that is rule of law and respect for rights. Now, in this feature, we'll take Zimbabwe. Now, do you know, guys, about Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe is, where is Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe is in Africa. It's probably like very, very, very poor nation, right? Zimbabwe was ruled by a person called Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe ruled Zimbabwe. There is no other president that Zimbabwe has seen Robert Mugabe all over. Now, Zimbabwe, like past 2 years, the conditions is too worse, where the inflation has led to hyperinflation in such a way that in Zimbabwe, if you go to Zimbabwe, let's say you have $1,000 and you go to Zimbabwe, you are a rich person there. The value of dollars is tremendous there, and the value of the Zimbabwean dollar or whatever currency they have has gone down. They have no value. Even if in Zimbabwe, if you have like 10 lakh dollar, like you have 10 lakh dollar, what can you do with 10 lakh dollar in India? Oh my God, you can do a new, like lot of things. And not now, of course. Now you cannot do anything. You cannot search or cannot order anything online. But in Zimbabwe, the value has gone so low that even if you have 10 lakh dollar, you can just buy a pound of bread. That's what it is. What will you do with the money when the value is just gone down, gone down to such an extreme level? That happened because of this rule of Robert Mugabe, where the decisions are not collectively taken, it is taken by a single man. Okay. Now let's move on to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe attained independence from white minority, that is in 1980, since the country has been ruled by a party called ZANU PF. ZANU PF, I'll just type it here. Okay, nice comments, guys. That's really interesting to know. The party that led the freedom struggle, its leader Robert Mugabe, has been ruling the country since independence. Elections have been held regularly, and always the ZANU PF party has won. President Mugabe is very popular but also uses unfair practices. What does he do? Over the years, his government has changed the constitution several times to increase the powers of the president and make him less accountable. So what, what is it? It's very funny, right? He has amended the constitution so as to make sure that people do not hold him responsible. If something happens in our country, who will we hold responsible? We will hold the prime minister. We will say he is responsible. लोग बोलते हैं कि मोदी जी क्या करते हैं, मोदी जी कोरोना के टाइम में क्या मेजर्स लेते हैं, मोदी जी कितने कोरोना का लॉकडाउन बढ़ाते हैं. He is accountable, right? Because the government is accountable. The democratic government is always accountable, responsive, it is legitimate. Now, in Zimbabwe, although there are elections held, the government is chosen, the government is formed, but the constitution amendment has made Robert Mugabe not accountable. Nice way, right? You're just the sake of the president, you are there, you're enjoying all the powers. When people come and say that, हाँ हमारा गरीबी हटाओ, हमें खाने के लिए कुछ नहीं है, हमारा डॉलर का प्राइस नीचे आया है, कुछ करो. You say, no, I'm not responsible for that. That is your mistake. I can't do anything. I'm enjoying my life. You go and do whatever you want to do. Go and die. Right? That is not the way. That is not the way of democratic countries. So he did that. Make him less accountable. Opposition party workers are harassed and their meetings are disrupted. Public protests and demonstrations against the government are declared illegal. If you protest against the government, you're probably put behind bars. There is a law that limits the right to criticize the president. You cannot criticize the president. Obviously, there are some countries where you cannot criticize the government, but a lot of times you have the freedom of speech. Remember, guys, last year, Constitution of India provides you the freedom of speech. You can criticize the government given in a very fair way. Unfairly, you cannot criticize the government also. That is also not there. Now, public protest are declared illegal. There is a law, I told you, that limits the right to criticize. Television and radio are controlled by the government and give only the ruling party's version. There are independent newspapers, but the government harasses those journalists who go against it. The government has ignored some court judgments and went against it. Now, look at it, just anarchy, right? It's a pure anarchy. There is a court, legislature, executive, judiciary. Legislature makes the law, executive implements it, judiciary checks it. So when the judiciary says the law is not fine, and the legislature should bind by the judiciary. But what does the legislature does in Zimbabwe? They say, हाँ भाड़ में जाओ तुम, हम नहीं सुनेंगे, हमारा अलग है, we are not responsible. Then why the need of a Supreme Court or a High Court in Zimbabwe? अगर कोर्ट चाहिए ही नहीं तो कोर्ट क्यों है? अगर आप जाते हो कोर्ट will give you some rule, then you'll say, I'm not agreeing with the court, man, I'll just go outside. मैं जाऊंगा बाहर. तो कोर्ट क्यों है भाई साहब? कोर्ट तो नहीं चाहिए. If you are abiding by the rules of the court, then only it is working, right? In our country, it works really well. When the court says nahi, ये law नहीं चलेगा, the government has to come back again, make a new law, make amendments to it. But in Zimbabwe, it doesn't work. Now, I told you an example of China. China में भी ऐसा है. China, you just cannot go and type Google नहीं चलता, WhatsApp नहीं चलता, YouTube नहीं चलता चाइना में. चाइना का खुद का WhatsApp है जो वो लोग यूज करते हैं. They use their own WhatsApp. Some name, I forgot the name of that WhatsApp that Chinese use, right? Haikua, not that one. Some YouTube, they, if you type something in YouTube regarding the Chinese government, it will not show to you because it is all censored. सेंसर्ड होते हैं वो. इंडिया में ऐसे नहीं है, आप कुछ भी देख सकते हो, कुछ भी आप देख सकते हो. कम से कम you have the freedom, right? You have the right. But in China, you do not have. Everything is censored. The papers, the newspapers, the movies are censored. गवर्नमेंट पहले देखता है, बाद में आप लोग पढ़ते हो, हम लोग पढ़ते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है ना. It's very wrong to curb somebody's right of like freedom of speech. It happened in Zimbabwe. The example of Zimbabwe shows that popular approval of the rulers is necessary in a democracy, but it is not sufficient. Popular governments can be undemocratic. Example, Mugabe. Popular leaders can be autocratic. Again, Mugabe. If we wish to assess the democracy, it is important to look at the elections, but it is equally important to look before and after the elections. There should be sufficient room for normal political activity, including the opposition of the political parties. Now, normally the opposition party is said to be the fourth pillar of the democracy, right? It is like a watchdog of democracy. If the ruling party is doing something wrong, suddenly suddenly there comes the opposition party where it checks. Now, if there is no opposition party, remember there is no opposition party, then the ruling party will do anything, right? The ruling party will go on doing anything. There are no people to question. Ultimately, the people like suffer a lot. So the opposition party is always there to check. So the opposition party needs to be stronger, by the way. Now, this requires the state should respect some basic rights for the citizen. They should be free to think. They should be free to have an opinion. They should be free to express this in public. They should be free to form association, free to protest and take other political actions. Where are these found, guys? Do you have all this? You have all this, right? The Indian Constitution has given you all these rights. The Constitution Day, now yesterday, not yesterday, day before yesterday, 14th, Ambedkar Jayanti, the great man has drafted such a wonderful constitution. He has given them, he was given us all the rights. Today I am there talking to you things. If I do it in China, if I go to China and say these things have happened, the government is at fault, the next moment the police will come to my house, they will arrest me and put behind bars. And you will not know what happened to me, right? I may come alive, I may not come alive, right? In India, it doesn't happen. There are people who question it. There is press which questions it. There is opposition party which questions it. You yourself have a lot of rights, freedom of speech, but it doesn't exist. Ours is, I told you, it's the biggest democratic country. Now we'll see another picture, right? People are being checked with the tankers. People are being made to follow the rules with the help of tankers. See, you can see on Yahoo, Google, and Cisco. This is about the Chinese government, which blocked free flow of information on the internet by placing restrictions on popular websites like Google, Yahoo. The image of the tanks and unarmed student reminds the reader of the major event in recent Chinese history. Guys, if you want to know about that one, let's see how what the Google will say. Just try and search this. This one, the Tiananmen Square massacre, where the students like you, they, how it is very unfair. They went and protested in Tiananmen Square in China. They were brutally killed. Thousands of them were brutally killed. Now it's very funny. to think when you go to the internet, you will not find more details about this one. Do you think internet provides you everything? Google provides you everything? No, not everything. It doesn't provide much details about Chinese government. Now just think, we'll think about the current issue. Yeah, the coronavirus. The case one, case zero, not one, case zero started in Wuhan city, right? Think, how much do you know about case zero? आपको कितना पता है case zero? From where did he get that disease? कहाँ से मिला वायरस, कहाँ से आया? No one knows. Chinese government will not tell you, and it is not impossible or not possible to go inside China and check all these things. The communist government will not allow you to do. In a truest sense, that is not what the communist government will do. Okay, Samiksha says by eating bat. But if the origin is just the bat, now people say it, right? The symptoms of patient zero would have been analyzed. The information would have been really critical in tackling the virus that we have. But it is not possible. The Chinese government isn't giving anything. It's keeping everything in suspicion. Now suddenly the Chinese government is open for business. They're making masks. They're making the N95 mask, they're making the ventilators, they're selling to other countries, poor countries like Pakistan, they're selling to other countries. Now, who is benefiting from it, right? You might have been very much knowledgeable about these issues, because whenever you change a news channel, only this कोरोना क्या है फायदा, क्या है नुकसान, बस इसी के बारे में बातें किया होगा. I just connected because of the country China. Now it's not a very easy country. Remember, guys, I'm not criticizing the communist here. In a truest sense, probably the best form of government, democratic government, the next would be communist government. The idea of the communist government is very much good, but it is not carried out nicely. That's the idea. The Chinese government, it's not a true communist government. On the outset, it is a communist government. On the inset, it is a capitalistic government. The communists do not believe in capitalistic. It is like a so-called communist country, right? We'll move on with the China. Now, I told you about this one, that is the conditions where the judiciary whose orders are obeyed by everyone, but it's not obeyed in Zimbabwe. Similarly, there are some conditions that apply to the way of government is run after the elections. The democratic government cannot do whatever it likes. Similarly, because it has won an election, tomorrow will start doing something. No, it cannot do. It has it has to respect the basic rules. In particular, it has to respect some guarantees to the minorities. It has to take care of the minority. The majority is already taken care of, right? Every office bearer has certain rights and responsibilities assigned by the constitution and the law. Each of these is accountable not only to the people, but also to the other independent officials. We shall read about this when we go for. Okay, that is interesting comments here. It is Nanda which says biological weapon. Why not? Why not? It can be possible. Times like this where you have to create nuclear weapons, it is better to create a biological weapon without any effort. It nearly decimated the world, right? Nearly half of the world is sitting in home. Look at you, me. We're just helpless against that virus. Create a virus. Now, this is not the first time it happened, right? The seniors, if they're watching, they would know this has happened. The Spanish flu, plague, so many things, smallpox, they were all designed to kill people. They just, this African continent, which was so much abundant with resources, how did the white people even get there? I told you a line where Zimbabwe got independence from the white people from 1980. Was South Africa, was Africa with white people? No, it was not with white people. It was with the native Africans. They were Europeans who came to Africa. They saw these people, they saw the resources, they were very greedy, started taking the resources. Would they have given? No. Then how would you take it? By force. Okay. Is it possible? Yes. Can you bring so many weapons? No. Bring some biological weapon. chordo, smallpox, some other things where people will be dead. Again, because you are very much interested, think about another one, the Sentinel Island in Andaman and Nicobar. They will not allow anybody to go to Andaman. You cannot go to Andaman and see, hello Sentinels, how are you doing? No. Why? Because it is believed that our body is immune to certain diseases. Now, if you, let's say, if you made a vaccine for coronavirus and you take it, right? Next time, there won't be any problem for coronavirus. Now, why are we not getting polio anymore? Yeah? Because we are immune. Our body is immune. But the sentinels in Andaman and Nicobar are not immune. Even if you go and shake their hands, now if you shake their hands, definitely corona. Even if you touch them, they will perish. And the whole generation of the sentinels will perish. That's why government of India doesn't allow you to go to the island. You can go to the island, right? But you cannot touch, you cannot talk to them. And they will not allow you to do also, right? It's a very mysterious fact. When tsunami happened in Chennai, city people washed away, but nothing happened to Andaman and Nicobar. They survived, isn't it? Nature is very mysterious. Now, every office bearer, I told you, they should be abiding to the rules and they should be accountable. So, finally, the feature says a democratic government rules within the limits set by the constitutional law and the citizen rights. Now, I will summarize all the things that we have studied. It's a very easy one. Let us sum up the discussion so far. Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. And the features of democracy, there are 4 features of democracy. The first one is rulers elected by the people take all the major decisions. Second one, elections offer a choice and fair opportunity to the people to change the current rulers, that is free and fair election. Third one, the choice and opportunity is available to all the people on an equal basis. What is that? One vote, one value. Fourth one, to exercise this choice leads to a government limited by basic rules. Rule of law, right? You have to abide. It's not easy abiding the rule of law. Now, the next part is why democracy. This is what is democracy, right? We have studied about what is democracy and the features of democracy. Now, today, the chapter was so interesting for me. I am hoping that it would be interesting to you also. Nearly, I completed 30 minutes. So, guys, I will leave here. I will start with why democracy tomorrow, right? I hope you understood this chapter. If you have any doubts, please reply back to me. At the last moment, I left the group because I changed into the another number. It's my number. In that number, I will be giving you instructions. Don't put a question like, who is this new person? It's me only. It's my another number. So have lunch, guys. It's 1:40. Have lunch and take care. Stay safe and stay inside till tomorrow. See you and have a wonderful day.